Yo, how's it going everyone? It's me, Arctic. Today's video, I'm going to be doing a complete build guide for Raiden Shogun. This is basically going to be a compilation of all my other videos. I'm just going to edit it together, and hopefully it'll be under 20 minutes. But if you guys wanted to know pretty much everything you need to know about building Raiden Shogun, I will be starting off with weapons, going into artifacts, and then we're going to get to DPS and sub DPS, and also burst support at the end. We'll be doing timestamps so you guys can find these pretty easily. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Just subscribe, I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. Anyway, it's time for the compilation. Yo, how's it going everyone? It's me, Arctic. Today's video, we are going to be going over a complete weapons guide for Raiden Shogun, aka Baal. I'll basically be covering each of the different types of builds that you can go on with Baal, and which of the weapons are going to be best for each of those two builds. But yeah, basically the main thing to keep in mind when you are building your Baal is that her second passive right here, it basically gives you an energy recharge conversion to electro damage and also energy restoration from her ults, and that's basically the primarily thing that we are going to be looking at when we're choosing a weapon for Baal. Blackcliff polearm is probably going to be a pretty good option for Baal in general, since what this gives you is it gives you a lot of crit damage and it gives you attack percent with its little passive right here based on defeating enemies. And so this weapon is probably going to be one of the better in slot weapons for Baal just because of how good it is. This weapon, instead of going for a bunch of energy recharge, what you want to do is go for like crit rate and then crit damage, since you are basically mainly focusing into crit damage stats. However, even if you do get like some energy recharge, which is still going to be really good on her because you get electro damage percent from the energy recharge, basically 40% of your energy recharge gets turned into electro damage. So this one can still work very well with energy recharge. Deathmatch I feel is an option if you want to go for more of a sub DPS role for your Baal. Basically what this is going to do is it's going to give you a lot of crit rate, up to 36% crit rate. So this is going to take care of most of your crit rate needs. And then you also get a little bit of an attack increase based on this. And so it's not that bad of a weapon actually. What I would basically see this using for is with her elemental skill, because her elemental skill is like a sub DPS kind of ability right there. And then you can kind of use her burst basically to deal some quick damage before swapping off. Basically, the Dragon's Bane could actually be a pretty decent option to use on Baal, and the reason behind this is because it gives you an increased damage against opponents affected by Hydro or Pyro by 20%. So this could actually work in an Electrocharge team comp with Baal. And this one does have a low base attack, however you do get an elemental mastery up to 221% right here. So it goes to you 221 elemental mastery, which is going to give you a lot of electrocharge reaction, so this could work very good with like a Tartaglia as well. Prototype Starglitter is probably going to be a really good free to play option for Baal. And the reason behind this is because it does give you an energy recharge stat up to 45%. And also after you use the elemental skill, it increases your normal and charge attack damage by 8% for 12 seconds. And you get a maximum of 2 stacks of this. And so yeah, this passive right here is actually pretty decent for increasing your damage with auto attacks. Vonious Lance is also another decent option to use on Baal. And what this does is it basically makes her kind of self-sufficient, because her other passive, whenever she creates like energy particles every 3 seconds, you're going to be gaining 2 resolve stacks, and resolve stacks are going to increase her elemental bursts damage basically. And so what this does is that it does have a high base attack of 565, and then it also comes with 30% energy recharge. And so this one is a pretty decent free to play option if you are going for more of a just general Baal gameplay kind of build. The Kitane Cross Spear, this one is going to be a pretty decent option as well. What this does is increase your elemental skill damage by 6%, which is nice because your elemental skill is a very constant stream of damage. And after your elemental skill hits an opponent, the character loses 3 energy, but regenerates 3 energy for the next 2 seconds for 6 seconds. This effect can occur every 10 seconds, can be triggered when the character is not on the field. So yeah, this will be very good for Baal sub DPS. And you can actually use this in an Electrocharge team comp thanks to its elemental mastery stat right here as well. If you are going for an Archon team, the Vortex Vanquisher could actually be pretty good if you are pairing Baal up with the Zhongli. This increases your shield strength by 20% and also gives you an attack boost up to 5 stacks. And if you're shielded, it is increased by 100%. So yeah, this will give you a lot of attack. It does have a 608 base attack and a 50% attack damage. Primordial Jadewing Sphere is probably one of the better options actually for this character. And what this does is on hit, it gives you an attack increase by 3.2% up to 7 stacks of that. And the effect can occur every 0.3 seconds, while in the possession of max stacks, your damage dealt is increased by 12%. And so that's a very good passive right there. In addition, it also has a high base attack of 674, and you get a crit rate ascension stat. So basically what this is going to do is give you a lot more stats, so then you can focus on like crit damage, that kind of stuff, and a little bit of energy recharge for that electro damage percent. Skyward Spine is going to be nice as well, because this does come with an energy recharge substat. And also its passive increases your crit rate by 8%, it increases your normal attack speed by 12%, and also your normal and charged attacks are going to have a chance to trigger vacuum blades, which basically increase your DPS by quite a bit. This does have a high base attack of 674, and its energy recharge goes up to 36%, and so that's going to give you quite a bit of electro damage bonus from that. Half of Homa is going to be a great option as well. This is going to be similar to the Black Cliff Spear, except just a little bit better. And so what the passive on this does is it gives you some extra HP, and then gives you an attack bonus based on your HP. And if you're below 50% HP, you're going to get like an additional attack bonus based off of that. This does come with a 608 base attack and a crit damage ascension stat up to 66%. And 66 is a large amount of actual crit damage basically, so you're going to get a lot of damage off of this. The catch is going to be an upcoming weapon. We don't know if this is going to be in an event or not, but I'm pretty sure it is, considering that its passive right here is basically very similar to Festering Desires. But what this does is increase your elemental burst damage by 16% and your elemental burst crit rate by 6% at R1. This does give you an energy recharge substat, which is nice because that'll give you some extra electro damage. And then at R5, this increases your elemental burst damage up to 32% and your crit rate by 12%. And the last but not least weapon is going to be the Grass Cutter's Light. This is definitely going to be the best weapon to use on any build with Baal, basically. And so what this does is your attack increased by 28% of energy recharge over the base 100, and you gain a maximum bonus of 80% attack. You gain 30% energy recharge for 12 seconds after you use your elemental burst, and 12 seconds is a pretty good amount of time. The weapon comes with a 608 base attack, and it also comes with a 55% energy recharge stat, which is going to be really nice for a Baal, increasing her damage and also attack thanks to this. Basically what this weapon allows you to do is it allows you to use an actual energy recharge timepiece over an attack percent timepiece if you play your cards right, get the right builds, you know. And so basically what you can do is, let's say you have 250 energy recharge with like an Electro Traveler and like a pretty much cracked out build, you know. That'll be like 150, and then you're multiplying that by like 28. That'll give you like 42% attack, which is actually a pretty good amount of attack bonus right there. But also, I do have a spreadsheet right here that shows basically my general Baal's build calculations in terms of actual damage I can get and damage percent. This doesn't take into factor any actual damage that's going to be in-game, it's just my general build. Basically, if I am using Grass Cutters, I can end up with basically these stats of crit damage 150%, that's what my goal is, and then electro damage I can get like 150% electro damage from using energy recharge basically with Baal's passive to boost that up, and that's going to be really nice. Overall, I think the best set to use on Baal is going to be the emblem set actually. And that the set is so good is because it gives you a bunch of energy recharge, and then it increases your elemental burst damage by 25% of your energy recharge. So basically this acts like a better Noblesse set actually. Even running like an energy recharge and 2-piece of Noblesse is not going to be as good as running the 4-piece of this, just with how Baal scales with her energy recharge and damage. That is going to be extremely valuable. But there's also another set that can work pretty good if you want to increase like her auto attack damage as well, because this is only going to affect like your initial slash damage on her burst. It's not going to affect your like auto attack damage or overall electro damage. And so the other set that's going to be extremely good on Baal is going to be the Thundering Fury set. And this one gives you a 15% electro damage bonus, and you can completely ignore this 4-piece basically because it's not really that useful on Baal, considering that her elemental skill takes 12 seconds to refresh and it lasts for 25 seconds. So it's literally a 140% uptime, I'm pretty sure, from what I've heard from people. And so yeah, I would definitely recommend running 2-piece Thunder Fury, 2-piece of the new set if you happen to have a good set piece for both of these. I think that is what I'm going to end up running, if I can get a 2-piece Thunder Fury and 2-piece of the new set. I might just farm out the new set and run like a Glad piece set, which is also another alternative to the Thundering Fury set. The Glad piece set is going to give you like some extra attack, and since Baal does have a very high attack, that can scale pretty hard. And if you are running a bunch of energy recharge, you're going to be getting electro damage anyway, so 15% electro damage really isn't too much when you stack it up if you can get better substats from your artifact with a Glad set. If you guys do have a 2 or 4 piece of the Glad set, it's not really that bad actually, because since Baal is a polearm user, basically this is going to increase their normal attack damage by 35%, so really after you cast your ult, you're going to get like a large amount of auto attack damage. Now, I don't think the Glad set is quite as good as the Shimenawa set, because this set really is basically just Glad set, but a little bit better. And since Baal is basically able to regenerate her own energy using her ults, and if you have a bunch of energy recharge on her anyway, this set, this 4-piece right here, might be extremely good as well. Because when you cast your elemental skill, if the character has 15 or more energy, they lose 15 energy. Normal charge and plunging attack damage is increased by 50% for 10 seconds. Now this one is going to be really, really good on her actually, if you are going for more of a main DPS route. And since her elemental skill basically has so much uptime, it lasts for like 25 seconds, has a 12-second cooldown to cast. Basically what you can end up doing is holding off on casting your elemental skill until you end up, until you've just cast your ult basically. Well yeah, like you can either cast your elemental skill right after you cast your ult and just lose out on a little bit of your auto attack time, or what you end up doing is casting it right before you do your ults, or somewhere like right as soon as your ult ends, you know, you've already regen a bunch of energy and then you just auto attack. It's a very legitimately good set on her. You just have to figure out when you're going to activate her skill and how much energy you can really regain in a specific amount of time if you are playing her as a main DPS. So in terms of artifacts that we have options for with choosing, I've already done an artifact guide. If you guys want to watch that, that'll be linked in a card above right now. But yeah, there's several options that you can go with. Most of them consist of 2-piece sets. However, I think the best 4-piece set is definitely the emblem set. It just basically boosts your like burst damage as well. Emblem set is definitely the very, very go-to set. You basically get energy recharge plus 20 and increase your elemental burst based on your energy recharge. This artifact set really shines as if you are using like a grass cutters or like a skyward spine. This could actually work pretty good because you are getting a lot more from your energy recharge if you're using energy recharge weapon. But generally, I think that if you don't end up getting a grass cutters, that you probably are going to want to keep like a attack percent timepiece with EM substats. Energy recharge substats I mean, and that's basically going to give you the best damage overall, I would say. The only reason to go in energy recharge timepiece is if you do get grass cutters, because you do end up getting attack percent and electro damage effectively from how much ER you have, so it really just works better going with that. But I personally am hoping to run a 2-piece of emblem set, and the reason behind that is because I can run a 2-piece of the Glad set or a 2-piece Thunder Fury, whichever one I have the best substats, energy, recharge stats on that as well. But yeah, for new players, if you are farming out an entirely new set for Raiden Shogun, this is definitely the set to go to. Alternatively, the other new set is actually going to be very good on her as well. This increases your attack by 18%, and when you cast your elemental skill, which her elemental skill is on like a 25-second duration with a 12-second cooldown, so pretty much you don't have to cast this all the time in between bursts. You can basically like cast your elemental skill, do your burst, wait for your burst to go up again, do your burst again, and then cast your elemental skill going out of that. I think that's going to be the best way to use Raiden's elemental skill with that, because you're trying to keep as much uptime with the least amount of energy consumed using this set. But this increases your normal charge and plunging attack damage, and that increases it by 50%. So this is going to be very strong if you are using her mainly for her auto attack damage after her ult. Now I would definitely recommend this set over the emblem set if you are running like a Jade Spear, something like that, Staff of Homa, something like that, because you are going to end up going for a more crit damage build and attack percent build with that versus energy recharge if you do pull a grass cutters. And so that's basically the general split in terms of actual DPS for Raiden. Yeah, and like I said, if you are going with like Primordial Jade Wing Spear, yeah, like definitely go with the Shimenawa set, because that is going to end up giving you a lot more damage than if you would go with like an emblem set. However, if you do want to go like a burst damage build with her elemental burst doing most of her damage as like more of a kind of sub DPS kind of burst damage dealer, yeah, like I will be doing a guide on that in the future as well. But yeah, I think the best way to utilize Skyward Spine is definitely going to be using the 4-piece of the emblem set. Like, there's really just no value to this energy recharge beyond like a little bit of electro damage percent. But if you can get like a ult damage boost with the 4-piece emblem set, yeah, it becomes a lot more worth it to use this weapon in terms of its viability. And this one is basically the second best for the energy recharge build for Baal. If I'm looking at my specific build that I'm going to go with on Baal, I'm definitely going to pull for grass cutters. I'm definitely going to get grass cutters. But yeah, grass cutters I think is definitely going to be the best, at least for the build that I'm shooting for. I'm shooting for a 2-piece Thunder Fury, 2-piece ER set. And really that's my goal. However, I'm probably going to end up using like a 2-piece Glad and 2-piece energy recharge set. And that's basically how it's going to end up with what I'm building. But in terms of like artifacts, I don't have to do anything necessarily that crazy to end up getting a very large amount of damage and stats from the grass cutters, which I feel is the main appeal of the weapon, because it's very, very synergized with energy recharge and her whole kit. I might use Black Cliff Spear, I might use Lithic Spear, it just depends on what I'm actually going to be doing. But yeah, this is generally my build if you guys want to look over this and see generally what my plan is for her build. And yeah, I might do a calculation on this if I'm using like a Jade Spear, also like a other kind of build. But yeah, generally if you have grass cutters, build ER. It's definitely going to benefit you quite a bit. And generally, if you don't have grass cutters, don't build ER, because it's not just necessarily going to benefit you that much. Before we get into talking about what artifact sets to choose and what weapons to choose, we first need to understand what parts of Baal's kit makes her a good sub DPS. The thing that makes her stand out the most as a sub DPS type of a character is going to be her elemental skill. It does basically do like a coordinated attack. You can think of that pretty much like a C6 Fischl in a way. I don't think it's quite as fast, I believe. You can probably look up the specifics of that yourself. But yes, this skill is going to last 25 seconds, and it's also going to be on a cooldown of 12 seconds, so you can pretty much spam this quite a bit if you guys want to get a little bit of damage out of the elemental skill, something like that. It'll definitely be good for like things like an electrocharged comp, and so we're going to be looking at some artifacts and weapons that work good in electrocharged comps, and also some other comps as well. This is kind of a mixture between running Baal in an electrocharged team comp, and also running her as a sub DPS / burst support. Thunder Fury set is probably going to be a relatively good set for this. It's going to give you an extra 15% electro damage bonus, and it also increases the damage caused by overloaded, electrocharged, and superconduct with its 4-piece. I would recommend the 4-piece if you are going for an electrocharged team comp, using Baal to trigger these type of reactions with her elemental skill. It could work pretty good. The skill cooldown reduction isn't really that valuable because her elemental skill does have basically 100% uptime. It doesn't go down at all. But yeah, like, this secondary part of this isn't as reliable. However, you basically have got this good boost to electrocharge, superconduct, and overloaded damage, so it kind of can work as a sub DPS capability. However, I still would recommend running a 2-piece Thunder Fury and like 2-piece of some of these other sets I'm going to talk about. Another set that a 2-piece of it could work pretty good is going to be the Wanderer's Troop set. It'll give you an extra bit of elemental mastery, so if you are going for some elemental reactions, this could work pretty good. However, I still think that the 4-piece of the Thunder Fury would outperform this just in general, just because of how elemental mastery works, but you'd have to see with how the elemental mastery buffs have actually affected the characters and elements like energy recharge, that kind of things. The set that's going to be the best, though, is going to be the Tenacity of the Millith set. This one's 4-piece is really going to be kind of valuable for, in general, team support. It doesn't really give you any more extra damage on the elemental skill. However, this is going to be a pretty good item for like support capabilities as well, especially if you are using like a Zhongli perhaps. This will basically put off this and give him some extra shield strength, and it also increases attack by party members by 20%. What's nice about this is since your elemental skill does coordinated attacks, it's basically going to be constantly triggering, and it's going to last for a good bit right here. And yeah, the duration on this is like 3 seconds, but you're activating it like every 0.3 seconds, 0.5 seconds. So basically you're going to have constant uptime this if you have Baal's elemental skill up. If you do have a Staff of Homa, this won't actually be that bad of a set to run a 4-piece on if you guys want to go for more of a support build. Yeah, this is definitely pair well with Staff of Homa. You'll get a good mix of like damage on your like burst, that kind of stuff, auto attacks. I would definitely recommend the set with Staff of Homa. Speaking of Staff of Homa, yeah, basically the HP is going to be increased by 20%, and you get this attack bonus based on your HP. And so yeah, it's going to end up being a very valuable weapon if you are running her as a sub DPS. I feel like you're not necessarily going to get the most damage in terms of using Baal as a main damage dealer. However, this will still get you a lot of damage just because of its crit stat right here. And yeah, I think it will be one of the best weapons for sub DPS Baal. Vanquisher can also work with Tenacity of the Millilith set. As far as I know, this works off the field. I'm not sure though. If it does, like, you're gonna get a lot of attack bonus from this, and especially if you are running her with like a Zhongli or Diona, you'll be able to get this shield uptime, which will be very nice for this weapon's passive. And yeah, it does come with attack percent, so it's going to be a pretty good weapon to build around, and so I think it'll be one of the better options. Not quite as synergized as Staff of Homa with the Tenacity sets, however I think it's still a very good option. Tane Cross Spear, this one is actually going to be probably the best, I would say, in terms of sub DPS capabilities if you are going to use like a free-to-play weapon, or you don't want your Staff of Homa used on her as a support. And so what this does is increase your elemental skill damage by 6%, and then after your skill hits an opponent, the character loses 3 energy but regenerates 3 energy for the next 2 seconds. So basically you get like, I think 6 or maybe 9 energy, but you're losing 3 energy, so you're effectively getting 6 energy. And it can occur once every 10 seconds, so about the time it takes to recast your elemental skill. And this also does have a high base attack and some elemental mastery, so you are going to be getting more out of an electrocharged team comp with this. It could be actually pretty good then. Lance is more so of a burst support kind of weapon, although it can be pretty decent. However, its passive doesn't trigger when you're off the field, which is a little bit sad. I was actually planning on using one of these if they did actually trigger off the field on like my official or something. I think official has like sacrificial bow, something like that, or Favonius warbow. That could have actually been really cool if they did have it to where it triggers off the field. Sadly, it doesn't. But this is going to allow you to regenerate your burst like very, very fast. It has a high base attack, so it's not that bad to build around, and also it has 30% energy recharge, so it supplements a build pretty well. Overall, I wouldn't really recommend this for like a sub DPS elemental skill damage necessary, but it would be pretty decent to use in terms of your actual overall build if you are using her more of as a burst support. Bane is kind of in a weird spot in terms of its usability in an electrocharge comp. At least in terms of having a Baal as a main DPS, I don't think this would work good as her if you're using her as like a DPS. However, I think this would be good if you're exclusively using her as like a elemental skill user, basically keeping that elemental skill triggering reactions. And so what this does, it increases your damage against opponents affected by Hydra or Pyro. So this technically could be used in like an overload comp as well, other than electrocharge. However, I think keeping Hydra on enemies is a little bit easier than keeping Pyro on enemies at some times in the game. And yeah, this one comes with a lot of elemental mastery, so you are going to get pretty good reaction damage as long as you're triggering reactions. So overall, not a bad weapon, but the reason why I would not use this is because its base attack is so extremely low. Like, you're really missing out on a lot of burst damage, so I would say you'd be better off using like the Catan Cross Spear. I think that's a way better option. As long as you guys end up making it to Inazuma and doing whatever quests for that, yeah, you have access to that pretty easily. Deathmatch, I think, also has a very good place in this sub DPS category, partially because as a sub DPS you're going to want to get a lot of consistent damage and as much uptime as you possibly can. And what Deathmatch does is it basically gives you this attack bonus and defense bonus based on how many enemies are near you. And so yeah, like, I think when you're off the field it always gives you this 24% attack bonus, or it might not give you any of the stat bonus right here if you're not mainly on the field, which kind of would suck just because like this weapon has a low base attack anyway, but its crit rate stat is going to give you a lot of crit rate, so you could run like a crit damage hat. And yeah, if you are like using not very good artifacts, yeah, this one would be perfectly fine to use and overall relatively decent on her as well. Basically, we're going to be building Raiden Shogun as a burst support, which is basically means that she's going to do most of her damage from her elemental burst, or also her short damage duration after her elemental burst is active. So basically we're focusing on her auto attacks after her burst that have electro infusion and that kind of stuff. So we're going to be looking at a few sets that work pretty good with that. First set that works pretty well with elemental bursts in general, that you probably already have a pretty decent set farmed out for already, is going to be the Noblesse Oblige set. This gives you elemental burst damage plus 20, and then when you use your elemental burst, all party members gain 20% attack for 12 seconds, and that is a pretty good 4-piece. However, there is another set that is a little bit better, which is called the Emblem set, so we'll talk about that in a bit. It's perfectly viable if you guys want a set that is just generally good on her for burst support. This can be a pretty good choice. Thundering Fury's 2-piece mixed with like a 2-piece of Noblesse is also a pretty decent combo to actually run as well. I think that'll be pretty decent for like if you guys don't have that many good energy recharge pieces for the Emblem set. And yeah, this will end up being a pretty good combo to use. 2 pieces of this generally work very nicely. 2-piece Electro, like 2-piece Glad, something like that can work very nicely, and that's probably what I'm going to end up running, to be honest. But Emblem of Severed Fate is definitely by far the best for this build. Increases your energy recharge by 20%, and then it gives you elemental burst damage based on 25% of your energy recharge. A maximum of 75% bonus damage can be obtained this way. So really, this is very nice for if you're maximizing your energy recharge. You're going to be able to get more burst damage than a Noblesse piece with this. And so it works very, very nice. This doesn't affect her auto attacks afterwards, which is a little bit sad. But yeah, this is still very good for that initial slash, which is going to be mainly her burst support capabilities. Weapons that I think could work well with burst support. The Deathmatch is one of these weapons that I think would work pretty nicely, because you can focus in on a bunch of crit damage stats on your artifacts versus crit rate, because this will have a good enough amount of crit rate. And yeah, it'll work very nicely for your burst damage right there, and keeping that crit rate up. So yeah, this weapon is a pretty good one to choose. Avonius Lance is also a very nice burst support kind of a weapon. It's going to give you energy recharge, a high base attack, and yeah, you're going to get 30 energy recharge. This is going to give you some electro damage. It's going to work very nicely with the Emblem set, and yeah, that'll end up working pretty good. Its passive isn't that bad either. It basically is going to give you a lot of energy particles, which are nice for stacking up the resolve stacks that you're getting on Raiden Shogun as well. Fine is a nice option to go for burst support as well, because you're getting energy recharge, a high base attack, and its passive right here is constantly active, so it's going to be able to be used like if you're in burst, out of burst. Overall, in general, this weapon is going to be very strong for like if you're planning on using her burst damage more so, or using like an Emblem set. This weapon I would definitely recommend. It'll give you a lot more like auto attack damage viability as well, so it basically makes your Raiden Shogun like a combo type character. The Catch is also a really, really nice weapon for burst support. This one is probably going to be released as a free-to-play weapon in Update 2.1. It increases your elemental burst damage by 16, elemental burst crit rate by 6, and at R5 of this, it basically is the same as like a Festering Desire, but for your elemental burst. This comes with energy recharge as well, and so yeah, this weapon is going to be probably one of the best for burst support, and yeah, I would definitely recommend keeping your eye out for this, or upgrading to this when this actually releases in-game. And then Grasscutter's Light is very nice for burst support. This basically increases your attack based on your energy recharge, so effectively you can stack up a bit more energy recharge than you normally would be able to. You can use this with an Emblem piece set, and it would work very nicely in an overall build. And yeah, it gives you energy recharge as a substat. It has a good base attack as well. But anyway, that's about it for me. In terms of running Raiden Shogun as a burst support, I think this is probably one of her better roles actually. It has a little bit smaller pool of weapon choices, I guess, but the other weapons are pretty good. Mainly the main thing about this burst damage set is that you basically have to choose like one of those artifact sets that I mentioned, like Noblesse set or Emblem set, depending on if you're going for energy recharge or more just crit stats. Like if you aren't going for any energy recharge, literally you don't necessarily have to use Emblem set. You're not going to get as much as if you would use like a Noblesse 2-piece with like electro damage 2-piece. It's possible to go with those type of things. It depends on what build you're going with. Basically, energy recharge weapon, go Emblem set. Basically, not energy recharge weapon or energy recharge substats on your artifacts. Definitely go with the other sets like Noblesse and Thunder Fury. But anyway, I hope this video helped you guys out a bit. And yeah, I have other videos that cover more of her other specific builds. And yeah, it's been me, Arctic. I will see you guys next time. Farewell.